Hello, good morning. This is a vlog. It's the last day of November. I'm in southern Norway, and tomorrow people will start to put up Christmas decorations in earnest. There's still quite a few to go up yet. They're different here than the UK. Straw goats, small goats made of straw with a little red ribbon around their neck. Very popular. It's the Christmas goat. Talking of straw, some people hang like a sheaf of corn with the seeds on their fence or their front gate. Wire it on for the birds to eat. What else? Oh, all the Christmas lights, the little fairy lights in trees and around buildings and that, they're all white, or more often than not a sort of an ambery yellow. Very rare to see the multicoloured lights that you get in the UK, except on our house. I insist on them for our Christmas tree. Multicoloured lights, essential. But I digress. Or do I digress? Maybe a vlog is all about digression. What I was going to talk about today was Jim Mullen, the famous British jazz guitarist. And I was also going to talk about comments, specifically insults, that I get on YouTube. Not very many, but they're quite interesting. Let's talk about that first. Okay, so I've been called various things, including a noob, which sounds a bit offensive, but I haven't looked it up yet. I think it might mean an amateur or something like that. And I've also got quite a few comments in the Romany language. One of my, in fact, the most viewed thing I've ever put on my YouTube channel, the parallel channel I have to my new music channel. This is a poetry channel, and it's just called Dikran Marsupial. So I wrote a long poem about gypsies, really about human rights, but also about the history of gypsies and my own personal connection with that. My father's mother was a full gypsy, and I actually knew her father. I was a toddler, but I did meet him, Grandad Moss. And I had a good friend at school who was also a full gypsy, and I knew his family, of course. So I've had some comments which I've had to kind of search on the internet to translate in the Romany language, and some which are in a pidgin, which is included calling me a posh rat. I think a gorger posh rat. A gorger is someone who is not a gypsy, doesn't live in the gypsy culture, but has some connection by blood. And that would be me. But actually my grandmother was a gorger because she didn't live in the gypsy culture at all. In fact, she kept it quiet that she was a gypsy. Yeah, so comments. But I've heard from other YouTubers who get far more views than I do, of course, some horrendous insults, some just hate and real name calling, which, while you ought to be able to shrug it off, would get you down if there was enough of it. So anyway, I wish I had more comments, and if anybody feels like insulting me in the comments, please do so in a witty way, then I can enjoy it as well. Okay, we come now to Jim Mullen. I don't know how I stumbled on, oh yes I do, he did a live session on Andy Edwards' channel. Those of you who've seen any of my other vlogs will know I follow Andy Edwards, the Midlands music commentator. Anyway, Jim Mullen plays and is interviewed, and it's a revelation to me. I actually saw Jim Mullen a long time ago, probably 15-20 years ago, at a club I used to go to in Manchester, and here I do digress. There's a club in Manchester, I think it's still there, called The Band on the Wall, and it's a live music club. It started off as a jazz club. I digress even further. It started off as a huge pub which served market workers, porters and so on, and was open from 6 a.m. in the early morning. Can you imagine? Beer and hard spirits at 6 a.m. Anyway, it's a beautiful old pub, although the carpet when I used to go was slightly sticky. And you also used to go into the toilets. You used to have run the gauntlet of drug dealers eyeballing you, trying to weigh up whether to try and sell you anything. Anyway, I used to go there anyway because it was a good night to go to with my friends from South Manchester when I lived there. But I also joined a jazz course which was there, subsidised by the Arts Council, I think, and maybe Manchester City Council as well. So it was a 10-week jazz course, and it was virtually free. You paid a tiny peppercorn amount. And I went there with my friend Trev. We were both kind of rock, blues, amateur guitarists, and we wanted more knowledge of music, so we joined this jazz course. Why not? And it was kind of a life changer. Not in any dramatic way, just in a gradual way, influencing my taste in music. Why am I talking about Band on the Wall? Because I actually saw Jim Mullen. After our jazz course in the evenings, it was a weekday evening, we were allowed to come down from the training rooms and watch whatever was on that night for free. And so we did. And Jim Mullen was on. He's a British guitarist, turns out Scottish guitarist. He was playing a Telecaster, and he was really good. I mean, he was interesting, but I didn't think he was anything in particular. I was seeing lots of other things there then. Even John McLaughlin played. What's he called? The guy who played with Wild Willy Harris. I can't remember. A British treasure whose name escapes me. It may come to me as I'm talking. Anyway, I saw some really great stuff there. I think I saw Anthony Braxton. I don't know, some of the greats. Anyway. And so yeah, I didn't think much about Jim Mullen at all. Just thought, he's an aging guy. He plays interesting jazz lines. He's never really spoke to the audience, and he used to kind of mouth along with his solos. Anyway, so I see him now. He's like 70, late 70s, I think, and I found him even more interesting a player. But then he started to talk. He was being interviewed, and he gave a potted history of his life, where he was from in East Glasgow, and his history in music. And first of all, he has Billy Connolly's voice. As "Aye, right, you bastard, I know what you're talking about there." Really interesting, hard man voice. But what a cultured man, what an interesting and articulate raconteur. A bit of a gob on him, as they say, where I come from in the Manchester Bolton area. I mean, he tells stories, and famously he was quite an in-demand session musician, and he was living in America for a while, and he ended up on a session for Bob Dylan. I think they were recording The Hurricane. This is the story of the hurricane, if you remember that one. And at some point, Bob Dylan's manager or the studio engineer said something, "Okay guys, we're going to take a break because Bob's having a bit of trouble with his voice now." And Jim Mullen says from the back, "What voice?" And inexplicably, he wasn't asked to come back again to that session. Anyway, yeah. I'll put a link to the recent interview and concert in the comments to this vlog, and I totally recommend anybody, especially if you're British, listening to that, especially if you're interested in jazz at all. Yeah, amazing raconteur, and an obviously lovely, generous man. You know, it just all comes across. So yeah, what else am I talking about? Oh yeah, recently I've been putting out music which I'm personally happier with, and it was all going really well. It was getting hundreds of views, and then I put out 2 tracks very recently. One was a version of the Alex Harvey Band's Midnight Moses, which I thought it was good. It was rock though, but rock going into jazz towards the second half. absolute poison on the channel. Nobody's interested in that. And then Killer Joe, which may be the best piece of guitar jazz I've ever played, is doing just only reasonably well. And then I think 24 hours ago I've put out another track which is my own jazz piece called Monsieur Satie's Impressionistic Zoot Suit. A long title, I know. And it's inspired by the music of Eric Satie. Pretty much everybody has heard one or two of the Gymnopedies, beautifully moody, slow piano music used in adverts and for various other things. Anyway, inspired by that, but still a jazz piece. And that's kind of getting slightly ignored as well. Never mind, I shall carry on. I'm not sure I've got anything else to talk about today, so instead of blethering on, I'm going to end it there. And tomorrow is December, so the real run up to Christmas. Okay, thanks for watching.